This is the unit circle again. Okay. And this is the x-axis, and this is the y-axis. And I'm going to construct an angle of size theta again. This angle is theta. Okay. And this point is defined as x and y. If we are going to draw an angle of size 180 plus theta, so this angle here is theta, till now is theta plus 100, sorry, plus 90 plus theta. This angle is 90 plus theta. This angle is 90. We will notice, as you see here, this point is x and y, okay? And this point is not x and y. Like simply, if I supposed that this point is 3/5, and this point is 4/5. You will find here in this place here, you will find x is going to be y and y is going to be x. This is the rotation 90 plus theta. Leads to get what? Leads to get negative y and x. What I want to say, instead of negative y and x, I took values 3/5 and 4/5 instead of x and y. So they will be negative 4/5 and 3/5. What I want to say simply that cosine is going to be sine, and sine is going to be cosine, that in the 90 plus theta. And if sine is turned to cosine and cosine is turned to sine in the 90 plus theta, you will find the tan will be cotangent, okay, and sec will be cosec. So if I asked you about sine 90 plus theta, how can we deal with it? Simply, I'll tell you a simple way to deal with 90 plus theta. What is this way? Ask yourself, 90 plus theta lies in which quadrant? It's in the second quadrant. Okay? Lies in the second quadrant. 90 plus theta. This is the second quadrant. And what is the sign of sine? Is positive. The sign of sine is positive. But don't forget that this 90 will change sine, okay, to cosine theta. What about cosine 90 plus theta? Ask about the quadrant. In which quadrant 90 plus theta lies in? In the second quadrant. Okay. What is the sign of cosine? We determine the sign of cosine after the second quadrant. So in the second quadrant, cosine is negative. Cosine is negative. But this 90, it changes cosine into sine. So it will be negative sine theta. Negative sine theta. Okay. Let's take an example about that. Sine 150. We can express 150 as 90 plus what? Yes, it's 90 plus 60. But in this case, be careful. And what are the steps we follow to find sine 150? The first step, determine the quadrant. So 150 lies in the second quadrant. Secondly, what is the sign of sine in the second quadrant? What is the sign of sine in the second quadrant? It's positive. Okay. But 90, it changes sine to cosine. So it will be positive cosine 60. It will be cosine 60. And cosine 60 equals what? Equals half. Let's take another example. Cosine, okay, 150. 150 lies in the second quadrant. Lies in the second quadrant. What is the sign of cosine in this case? Cosine in the second quadrant is negative. Cosine in the second quadrant is negative. Okay. We can write 150 as 90 plus 60. Okay. But don't forget 90, it changes cosine to sine. So it will be negative sine 60. Some students get confused and say sine is positive in the second quadrant. No, it's not right. Because we determine the sine depending on the original function, depending on cosine. We determine the sine positive or negative, depending on cosine, depending on the original function. So it's negative. Negative, cosine is negative in the second quadrant. Cosine is negative in the second quadrant. But this 90 changes cosine to sine. So it will be negative sine 60. And negative sine 60, it's negative root 3 over 2. Okay. So till now, we have studied 180 plus theta, 180 minus theta. And also we have studied 360 plus theta and 360 minus theta. Okay. And also we studied 90 plus theta and 90 minus theta. 90, it changes sine to cosine and cosine to sine. And it changes sec to cosec and cosec to sec. And it changes tan to cotan and cotan to tan. So tan 90 plus theta. 90 plus theta lies in the second quadrant. Lies in the second quadrant. And the tan in the second quadrant, tan in the second quadrant is negative. Tan in the second quadrant is negative. So it will be negative. But this 90 changes tan to cotan. It will be negative cotan theta. It will be negative cotan theta. Okay. So 90 plus theta and 90 minus theta, it changes sine to cosine, sec to cosec, tan to cotan. And also 270 plus theta or 270 minus theta. It changes sine to cosine, cosine to sine, sec to cosec, and cosec to sec, tan to cotan, and cotan into tan. Okay. Open your book page. Page 59. Let's take question 5, which is sine theta plus cosine 270 plus theta. So, Yusuf, cosine 270 plus theta.
بيج كام تاني معلش يا مستر؟
Page 59.
اوكي.
270 plus theta lies in which quadrant? +270 plus theta lies in which quadrant, Yusuf? You know, 0 here, 90, 180.
Fourth.
Fourth quadrant. So 100, 270 here, plus theta, so lies in the fourth quadrant. Okay. What is the sign of the cosine in the fourth quadrant? If you remember, add sugar to coffee. So in the fourth quadrant, cosine is positive.
Sign is negative.
Cosine is positive. Add sugar to coffee. Cosine is positive.
أيوة.
And 270, it changes cosine to what? To sine. So it will be negative, positive. Okay. Here is positive. And 270 changes cosine to what? To sine. So we have here, we have sine theta plus sine theta. Sine theta plus sine theta equals what? Equals 2 sine theta. Did you get it?
Yes.
Yes.
If we have sine of an angle equals the cosine an angle, that means the two angles here, let's write x and y. That means x plus y in this case must equal to 90. Must equal to what? To 90. Or x minus y equals 90. So the sum of the two angles equals 90, or the difference between them equals 90. So sine 20 equals the cosine what? Equals the cosine 70. Why is that? Because the two angles must be equal to what? Must be equal to 90. And sine 1 is the same as cosine what? Cosine
90.
89. Do you know why? Because according to this rule, the sum of the two angles must be equal to what? 90. So 1 plus what equals 90 plus 89. Okay. Mariam, sine 40 equals the cosine what?
Equal cosine
50. That's right. Because the two angles must be equal to what? Must be equal to 90. And also in tan and cotan, tan x equals cotan y. Okay, tan equals cotan in the case x plus y equals what? 90. Okay, and sec x equals cosec y equals cosec y. That means here in this case, x plus y equals what? 90. Did you get it?
Yes.
So
Yes.
go to page 59. Question 1. Tan 42, and we have 4 choices, equals what? Tan 42 equals what?
59 يا مستر، عندي ما فيش السؤال اللي حضرتك بتقول.
Yes, yes. Open exercise 10. Sorry, exercise 10.
Okay.
Open exercise 10. Because I have an old version. Exercise 10. Question 1. Tan 42 equals what? We have 4 choices. Which one will take? Equals the cotan. Cotan what? We will take cotan 48. Why?
8.
Because the two angles must be equal to what? Must be equal to 90. Okay. Question 2. Cotan 90 plus theta. Fatma, 90 plus theta lies in which quadrant?
Second.
It's in the second quadrant, right? What is the sign of cosine in the second quadrant? It's negative,
Negative.
right? Negative. But this 90, it changes cosine to what? To 10. So it will be negative 10 theta. It will be negative 10 theta. Did you get it, everyone?
Yes.
Number 3. Give it a shot. It's sec 105 divided by cosec 15. Okay. So we can write this 105 as what? As 90 plus 15. Do you know it? It's 90 plus 15 is the same as 105
Yes.
over cosec 15. Let's have a look at the numerator again. 90 plus 15 lies in which quadrant? 105 lies in which quadrant? In
Third.
the second quadrant. In the second quadrant. Lies
Second, sorry.
second quadrant. What is the sign of sec? It's negative. Because sec is the inverse of cosine. And cosine in the second quadrant is negative. So it's negative. It's negative. So 90 plus 15 lies in the second quadrant, and the sign of sec in the second quadrant is negative. So it will be negative, but this 90, it changes sec to what? To cosec. So it will be negative cosec 15. Negative cosec 15. Okay. Negative cosec 15 divided by cosec 15, it will be negative what? Negative 1. Try question 4, everyone. Try question 4, everyone. Cosine theta plus cosine 180 minus theta. Try it. When you know, let me know. If you know the answer, so tell me. 180 minus theta. Maryam, in which quadrant this angle lies in? Second.
Okay. It will be
What is
negative
the sign
cosine
of the
theta.
cosine in the second quadrant?
Negative cosine
Negative.
theta.
So it will be negative.
Two.
Negative what? Cosine theta. Why we didn't write it as sine? Because 180 doesn't change any of the values, doesn't change any of the trigonometric functions. So it's negative cosine theta, and we have here cosine theta. So cosine theta minus cosine theta equals what? 0. Did you get it?
Yes.
If ABC is an acute angled triangle, ABC is an acute angled triangle, then cosine A plus cosine B plus C. Do you know that angles in the triangle A plus B plus C, the three angles add up to what? 180. So angle B plus C, we can replace angle B plus C with 180 minus A. So cosine A plus cosine 180 minus A. Let's have a look at 180 minus A. 180 minus A lies in the second quadrant.
Second.
Second quadrant. And in the second quadrant, cosine is negative. In the second quadrant, cosine is negative. So it will be negative cosine A. And we have here cosine A. So one cancel another out. Equals what? Equals 0. Let's go to the next one. If theta is the measure of an angle in standard position, and its terminal side intersected the unit circle at x and negative x. X and negative x. Where x is greater than 0, then theta equals what? So x and negative x here, x is positive, and here, this is y, is negative, the second quadrant. So cosine is positive and the sine is negative. Okay. So cosine is positive and the sine is negative. In which quadrant? In the fourth quadrant. So this angle lies in the fourth quadrant. In the fourth quadrant, it's positive and negative. Okay, in the fourth quadrant, positive and negative. And which angle in general, its cosine is the same as its sine. This angle, sine 45 or cosine 45. Here it's 1 over root 2, and here it's 1 over root 2. So in the first quadrant, cosine 45, sine 45, 1 over 2 and 1 over 2. In the second quadrant, the angle is 180 minus 45. It's 135. So cosine 135 is negative 1 over root 2, and sine 135, it's 1 over root 2. And in the third quadrant is 180 plus theta. So 180 plus 45, it will be 225. So cosine 225 equals negative 1 over root 2, and the sine 225 equals negative 1 over root 2. In the fourth quadrant is 360 minus theta. So 360 minus 45 is 315. Okay. In this case, you will find the cosine 315 equals 1 over root 2, and the sine 315, it will be negative 1 over root 2. Okay, so we will take choice 315 without using the calculator. Okay, the next one, sine theta is negative half. Theta is the smallest positive angle. Theta is the smallest positive angle. Okay, because theta is the smallest positive angle, so let's find sine theta, which is half. Sine 30 is half. Sine 30 equals half. And in the second quadrant, it's 180 minus theta. 180 minus 30 is 150. And sine here is positive. So here sine 150 is negative half. Is half. And in the third quadrant, it's 180 plus theta. 180 plus 30 is 210. In the third quadrant, sine 210 is negative half. In the fourth quadrant, 360 minus theta. 360 minus 30 is 330. So sine 330 here is negative half. What is the smallest positive angle? 30 is positive. Okay, 150 is positive. 210 is positive. 330 is positive. What is the smallest positive angle which sine is negative half? So we have here two choices. Sine 210 is negative half and sine 330 is negative half. But we wanna the smallest positive angle. So we will take 210 because 210 is smaller than 330. Let's go to the next. If the terminal side of an angle whose measure is theta in standard position intersects the unit circle at negative root 3 over 2 and y, where y belongs to are positive. So y is positive. So here we have negative and positive. Negative and positive in which quadrant? In the second quadrant. Here we have negative and positive in the second quadrant. Which angle? Ignore this negative now. Don't look at this negative. Which angle? Its cosine is root 3 over 2. Cosine what is root 3 over 2? Yes, it's cosine 30 is root 3 over 2. But this 30 in the second quadrant, it will be 180 minus 30. 180 minus 30 is 150. So if you try to find the cosine 150, it will be what? Negative root 3 over 2. Okay. What about y in this case? It's 150. So sine 150. It will be what? Sine 150 in the second quadrant. Okay. And sine is positive in the second quadrant, and we can write it as 180 minus 30. So it's a positive. Okay, we will take positive sine 30. Why is that? Because in the second quadrant, sine is positive. Why? We didn't change sine into cosine because this angle is 180. So it will be sine 30, which is half. So we will take half. And the question is about the angle, so we'll take 150. The next, this one is very, very important. A, B, C, D is a cyclic quadrilateral. What do you know about a cyclic? Cyclic is that shape in which each two opposite angles are supplementary. Here we have A, B, C, D, and A, B, C, D is a cyclic. Each two opposite angles equals 180. Each two opposite angles add up to 180. So this angle A and this angle C equals 180. So angle C can be written as 180 minus A. So we can write here instead of C 180 minus A. The question is to find sine C. So sine C is the same as sine 180 minus A, which is equal to sine A. So sine A is the same as sine C. Did you get it?